All right. Let's make sure our phones are away and we're paying attention. Today we're starting section 8.5.
Are the quizzes graded?
No, I just wanted to get the extra credit done and graded. I'll get to those today, hopefully. All right, so we're going to solve rational equations. We've been adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing, and simplifying rational expressions on the last quiz. So today we're going to solve rational equations. So extraneous solutions are solutions that don't work. And what makes them not work? You know, we called them restrictions when we did the simplification and adding and subtracting stuff. What were we looking at? What? What were the restrictions? What did we look at to find restrictions before? What made the x zero in the denominator, right? So when we solve our equation, our rational equation, an extraneous solution is one that when I plug it back in, it gives me 0 in the bottom. It's one I can't use. Okay? So we're going to still be checking that like we have in the past. All right? So what does that blue thing say? So a rational equation, again, is an equation that contains one or more rational expressions. And the one they have here is the time t in hours that it takes to travel d miles can be determined by using the equation time equals distance divided by rate. All right, that's a rational equation. So what we're going to do is going to have, you know, two of those three things we're going to know. We might know time, distance, or we might know rate and time or whatever. So we're going to solve. Okay? To solve a rational equation, start by multiplying each term of the equation by the least common denominator. So we should know how to figure out what the least common denominator is now. We did that to add and subtract rational expressions, right? So we're going to multiply every term in the equation by the least common denominator. That eliminates the denominator of the rational expression and results in an equation we can solve using algebra. So we're going to get rid of the fraction. It won't be a fraction after the first step, after we multiply everything, both sides of the equation, every part of the equation by the common denominator. All right? So looking at this, it's really tough to figure out what the common denominator is. What is it there? Grant. Very good. It's the only denominator that showed up, right? So we have to multiply everything by x. All right? So what's x times x? X squared. What's negative 18 over x times x? Again, this is 18 over x times x over 1. What happens to the two x's? They cancel, so what's the answer? Negative 18, yeah. And then what's 3 times x? 3x. So that's what we get. No more fraction. It's gone. That always happens. Whatever we multiply everything, coli, by the least common denominator, it will eliminate the fraction stuff. It'll get rid of the denominators. Okay? Now, what do I have to do to solve this equation? What kind of equation is it now? It's a quadratic now, right? So, Scott, wake up. What do we have to do first so we can solve a quadratic equation? Come on, we've done quadratics all last 9 weeks. What?
Split it into two.
What do you mean by splitting it into two?
Different square. No.
Set it equal to 0, yeah. Do that first. And then you guys are telling me split it up or difference of squares, that kind of stuff. What are you thinking about doing? Factoring, yeah. Okay. So to set it equal to 0, what do I have to move? The 3x, right? How do I move it over? Subtract it, right? So that's the next step. Subtract the 3x, put it in the right order. We know what the right order is, right? And set it equal to 0. All right? So Kennedy, what are the factors of negative 18 that when I add them will give me negative 3? You can't give me two numbers that multiply give me negative 18? Sure you can. Zach?
Negative 63.
Yeah, it's that easy, Kennedy. Negative 6 times 3. Okay? So now what do we do? Andrew? Yeah, you do. Yeah, just set them both equal to 0. Thank you, Cole. Right? That's all. We've done this many times. So what are my two answers?
6 and negative 3.
6 and negative 3. Now, we're supposed to check for extraneous solutions, meaning I go back to the original problem and plug 6 in and negative 3 in. Will I get a 0 in the bottom? No, they do it on the next page for us. When they put 6 in, 18 divided by 6 is 3. 6 minus 3 is 3, so it worked. When they divided negative 18 by negative 3, they got the positive 6, and negative 3 plus 6 is also 3, so they both work. So those are both good answers. There are no extraneous solutions, none that we have to get rid of. Okay, so going back, we multiplied all 3 terms of the equation by the common denominator. You have to multiply everything. You can't just multiply some of them. Okay, make sure you do that. And then it gets to look like an equation that you're used to solving. So we get rid of those fractions right away. That's the goal, to solve it, okay? So, go ahead and do that one. Multiply everything by the common denominator. Let's see if we can get you guys doing some work today and staying awake.
No, I know.
Yeah, I know what to do, but I don't know how.
If they can't stop, then they just say that. Yeah.
Because no, it's not easy.
What are we fighting?
Again, figure out the common denominator and multiply everything by that common denominator.
I know. I solved it out, dude. Jordan had games. I had to help it, not Concussion. I don't think I'm doing it right. It's 3X, right? But when we cancel out, I'll be fine. No, it's not. That's 3. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Oh, you're so sorry. You guys do it pretty good. Am I doing it even 12? Okay, cool.
Well. Okay. Well, yeah. Now it doesn't have the quadratic, so you can just get that first off.
No, we just have to. You have to get X by itself. Well, yeah. Sorry.
All right, let's see how you did. Andrew, what's the common denominator? Good. You can't factor either denominator, so you just put them both down, right? Whatever shows up, write it down. Isn't that what we've been saying? So 3 showed up and an X showed up, so we write it down. All right? So now, I just do it like this, and then I just distribute. Okay? So what cancels? The 3's, not the 3X. The 3's cancel. So what's X times 10? 10X, right? 3X times 4 over X. What cancels? The X's. So what's 3 times 4? 12. Does anything cancel? No, there's no denominator, right? So it's 3X times 2, which is what? 6X. So that's what it looks like after we multiply everything by 3X. Now it's an equation that's not a quadratic. There's no X squared. So we just get the X's together and then get it by itself, right?
Why is there not an X after as well?
Because this X and that X canceled, so it's just 3 times 4. Any other questions so far? Okay, you all right? So all I'm going to do is put the X's together. I don't have to do any factoring in this one. Keeping stuff low because it's something on my shoulder. I can hardly lift it, so it's hard to write any higher than this high. All right, so 10X minus 6X is 4X. Those canceled. So now what do you do? Just divide by 4, right? All right, so then we just go check it by substituting 3 there. So 4/3 plus 2 is how many thirds? Just multiply it by 3. 2 is how many thirds? Just multiply 2 times 3. So 6/3 is 4/3 plus 6/3, 10/3. Yeah. So it's a good answer. So we're done. Okay. Any questions? Colai, what's the problem?
No,
Why are you having so much trouble today?
no,
Did Dad make you work too hard this weekend? All right, try that one.
Oh, you could check the door, yeah.
Maybe you, did I get it from you?
Or you just want
I
to-
just.
That would work. I think you're right. Okay, so what's the common denominator? 4x. Now, Danny asked this, can he take this over there since they're the same denominator? And the answer is yes. Okay, so if you wanted to, right, there's two ways to do this. Okay, you could do it this way. And that's what a lot of you were doing, and that's correct, that's what we've been talking about. But what Danny just said is okay. Because those are like fractions, you know, they have a common denominator. Again, sorry about me getting more in the way than normal. Okay, so if you wanted to, you could do that, right? All right, so let's do both just to see what happens. We should get the same answer, right? So distribute this. What cancels on this one? X's. So what's 4 times 6? 24. On these two, what cancels? The 4. So it's X times 5. On these two, what cancels? The 4. So it's X times negative 7. So then it looks like that. Okay? Now you're going to bring the 5x over to the 7x by subtracting. And you get 24 equals negative 12x. And then divide by negative 12, and you get negative 2, right? And when you plug that in, 6 over negative 2 is negative 3, all right, which is negative 12 fourths plus 5 fourths is negative 7, so it works. Now over here, if you've got a fraction equal a fraction, how do you solve it? Yeah, cross multiply, it's a proportion, right? So this one, you could have cross multiplied x times negative 12 and 6 times 4, and then you're at the same spot as there, right? You still get negative 2. So either way is okay in that problem. So there's more than one way to do this problem, right? Questions? Okay. Did I not turn this back on? Okay. So again, we talked about extraneous solutions, right? So you're checking to make sure it works, your answers. Okay? Now, what's that? We just talked about it. What is that? Same denominator, right? We could cross multiply, right? If it starts out, if there's only one denominator, right? So if I multiply the whole thing by the only denominator, what happens to the x minus 2's? They cancel. What happens to the x minus 2's? They cancel. So all we got is 5x equals 3x plus 4. So if you have the same denominator to start and one fraction equal another, you can basically just drop the denominators, right? It's just 5x equals 3x plus 4. Subtract 3x, move it over to the 5x. They didn't show that. All right, let's do this. Move this down a little bit. So I'm going to move it back up so I can write it. Oops. Okay. And then I get 2x equals 4. So you guys know that if you divide by 2, you get x is 2. But what happens when you put 2 up here? What happens to that denominator? It becomes 0, right? So is it a good answer? No, so that's why they call it extraneous solution. All right, so there's really no solution to this one. Or we like to do this, right? Yeah. Okay, so you could have done this. If you cross multiply these, it would get a little goofier. So I would be on the lookout. If it's a proportion, if you have the same denominator on the proportion, you can just get rid of it, just cross them out and just let the numerators be equal. Okay? That makes it a lot quicker. Right, and I did the check. Now, this one, this x plus 2 makes it a little different, doesn't it? Can I factor any of those 3 denominators? No. So what's my common denominator? What is it? X minus 8, anything else? 2, yeah. If you can't factor, remember, if it shows up, we have to write it down, right? So we're writing down the x minus 8 and the 2. Okay. So looking at 2 times x minus 8, and I'm multiplying it by the first fraction, what cancels? What's going to cancel? X minus 8. So it's going to be 2 times 2x minus 5. for that one. When I multiply those, what cancels? The 2. So it's going to be x times x minus 8. When I do this one, what's going to cancel? X minus 8. So it's going to be 2 times 11. You with me? All right. So whatever the denominator is cancels what's left. You multiply by the numerator. The 2's cancel, so we multiplied by x minus 8. The x minus 8's cancel, we multiplied by 2. All right? On the left, I got to distribute. 4x minus 10, not equals, sorry, plus x squared minus 8x equals 22. What do you see in here? X squared. So we got to set it equal to what? 0. Okay? So x squared goes first. What's 4x minus 8x? Negative 4x. Now, when I move this 22 over, what do I do with it? Subtract it, right? So what's a negative 10 minus 22? Negative 32. So there's our quadratic equation, which we can factor. What are the factors of negative 32 that add up to negative 4? Good. Negative 8 and a positive 4. So what's this answer on the left? Positive 8. And what's one on the right? Negative 4. Now, what are we supposed to do always? Check in the original. If I put 8 there, what happens? Got a 0. Can I use it? No. Negative 4 minus 8 is okay, right? So we got 2 answers, but only one of them is good. All right, so again, the common denominator, Kennedy, was both of them. I had to write them both down. Right, Trent? Don't zone out on me. You guys are zoning out. Okay? Questions? Grace, do you have a question? You took care of her, Danny? All right, good. Anybody have a question? So again, we don't like fractions, do we? So the first step is to get rid of the fractions. And how do we do that again? Multiply everything by the common denominator. Okay? So, if you can't factor the denominators first, you just write them both for 3. How many there are down? You know, if it shows up, write it down. And once you do that, you'll get rid of the fractions. Okay? So, what should we do here? Yeah, we could factor the denominator, or if you want, you don't like factoring, right off the bat, it's a what? What do we call it? Starts with a P. No, one fraction equal to another we call a proportion, and we could cross multiply. So I think it would be easier for this one to cross multiply. All right? All right, so we're going to do that. So 2 times x squared minus 16 equals 16 times x minus 4. There's no more fraction then, right? Does that make sense? Distribute the 2. Distribute the 16. You got an x squared, so you got to set it equal to 0. So the 2x squared will stay there. The 16x I'll subtract. Bring it over here. The 64 I'll add. You with me? you notice about 2, 16, and 32? They're all divisible by 2, so I have a GCF. So let's pull that out, so I don't have to worry about it. So I got x squared minus 8x plus 16. Well, what's the answer going to be? 4. Watch. I thought I got rid of that. Ooh, it bounced. I wanted to bounce that far. All right, let's do this. Okay, so do I need to worry about that 2 anymore when I factor? I already factored it out, right? So what are the factors of, see if I can go left-handed. What are the factors of positive 16 that add up to negative 8? Negative 4 and negative 4. So what's my answer? 4 for both, right? But what happens when I put it up top? What's 4 minus 4? 0. So is that a good answer? No, it's not a good answer. So no solution. Okay? Check every time. So proportions. We had a couple of different ones. If they're different denominators, go ahead and cross multiply. What do we do if our proportion had the same denominator? What do we do with them? We just could cross them out. Okay? Save ourselves some time. All right? So solving these rational equations, we're going to find common denominators so that we can get rid of those fractions to start. Okay? So that's your assignment, not too many. Look, always check, remember, in case you have a solution that's not a good one, an extraneous solution. Thanks for your attention today.
We're looking at the process.